This is a Leadership Breakdown podcast. I'm Kylie Ota, intuitive business strategist and leadership coach. I'm here to break down the strategies for leadership and to address the breakdown that is happening in our leadership today. So let's break it down, shall we? Have you ever felt stuck as a leader, even though you've achieved so much? Like something's just missing, and the confidence in your decisions or the clarity in your next steps, like, it's just not there. Well, for one, you're not alone. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Leadership Breakdown podcast. I'm your host, Kylie Ota, and today we're going to be talking about why confidence and clarity are the foundations of bold leadership and the hidden reasons why high performers like us struggle with clarity and confidence, and how to align your strengths to lead with intention. So, as someone who has been there, successful on the outside, but feeling stuck on the inside, I'm going to be sharing with you how I was able to break through that, how I help my clients break through that, and how you can do that too. You're going to get all of the steps on today's podcast. So stick with me, and I'm going to be sharing with you exactly the steps of how to gain that confidence and clarity that you're looking for as a leader, and how you can go deeper through this work inside one of my programs called Your Audacity. And with that, we're going to be starting with some of the common challenges that leaders face. So, challenge number one is feeling stuck despite our successes. And again, many times leaders, we reach this point where success doesn't feel like it should, right? It doesn't feel as fulfilling, as easy, as successful as everyone said it was going to be. And why is that? One, it's because when this happens, the leader is not aligned with their unique leadership style. And I have a quiz on that. I have a personality assessment I take all of my clients through. I and it's something on my website. You can go ahead and grab it, take the quiz. And it's based on a couple of different, like, 4 quadrant personality quizzes. One of them, of course, is the DISC. I'll be referencing the DISC here in this just because the DISC is the more commonly used terms, but I combined a couple of these different quizzes to make my own because, again, every quiz is nuanced and I liked certain things from certain ones. And I found that there was a commonality between the four, these archetypes, and I, I made my own. So anyway, what I call the D type is the make it happen maven. And this is the person that makes it happen. And she's driven on success and all that. But while she is driven to succeed, she often feels stuck because this is a type that can sometimes find themselves micromanaging instead of learning how to trust their team. And some of the ways that we get out of micromanaging is to learn how to trust our team, because right, Franklin Covey has this thing called the speed of trust, and where, right, your organization can only grow as quickly or as fast or equal to the speed of trust. And I'll be giving you some tips on how to increase that trust as we go along on this episode, but that's one of the things. So challenge number 2 is reactive leadership, right? We react to problems. We're always putting out fires. And this also happens when we're unclear about your strengths of your personality type, right? Understanding, like, if we're talking about the DISC here, right? Understanding what that high D personality really means, leveraging your strengths, understanding your weaknesses, because let's face it, as a leader, if we're not shoring up our weaknesses, are we really leading? Right? We cannot bulldoze our way through leadership. We have to understand our strengths, we have to understand our weaknesses. And one of the weaknesses is, right, reacting to situations rather than leading with intention. And, I worked with leaders who were constantly putting out fires because they lacked this clarity. They didn't have clear visions, they didn't have clear goals. And even if they did have a clear vision and goals, their tactics or their strategies that they were applying did not align with their personality type. And this is where a lot of people, a lot of leaders go sideways is I have the vision, I have the goal, but it doesn't align with my personality type. So strategies are not working. And they may be working a little bit, but they're not highly effective. And right, if we're trying to manage our time, money, energy, the resources, we have to make sure that we're not wasting any of those resources. Again, challenge number 3, lack of confidence in our decision making. And even high achieving leaders, like people who are highly efficient, are highly effective, even those leaders second guess themselves when they don't have a clear connection between their strengths of their personality type and their leadership goals. Again, right? If a high D personality type is trying to do things with an I, or what I call the charismatic creative, if you're trying to use those tactics, it's not going to work. It's just not. I'll go deeper as we go forward through this episode, but why confidence and clarity matters in leadership. First of all, confidence is what unlocks the action, right? If we're not confident in the steps, right? Without this confidence, this is what causes us as leaders to hesitate. And then when we hesitate, we miss opportunities. Or when we are hesitating, that's when we're overthinking, we're overcomplicating things, and then we therefore also miss out on opportunities. And bold leadership requires trusting our decisions and our ability to adapt. And clarity has to align with our leadership, right? So confidence first and then clarity next. When we're clear on our vision and it's aligning with our personality strengths, then that's when every decision becomes easier. And having the confidence and the clarity, right? The clarity removes the overwhelm and create focus, obviously. Obviously, clarity creates focus. But when we don't understand our personality type, when we don't understand how to operate from our strengths and how to navigate our weaknesses, this is where we lose focus and we lose efficiency. So, example, one of my clients, she was feeling completely overwhelmed by stuff that was happening in her leadership role at work. So she had a direct report that was a different personality style and actually a more docile personality type than she was. She's the bold, like high D kind of leader. And she was feeling very frustrated with why, this person that she was reporting to wasn't taking action, right? Wasn't being direct, wasn't being bold like her. Cause like, I'm a bold person. If you're going to lead me, I also expect you to be bold. And I said, wait, sometimes like, as she was explaining, like in the scenario, I said, I think this person is the opposite of who you are. And she's like, what? And I go, yeah. So when you're dealing with this personality type, you have to change your communication, change, your approach so that you can communicate effectively. And then once she started doing that, it was way easy. Like the communication just became easier. Just like, holy camoles, I don't know what happened. I don't know what shifted, but things are starting to move, where there once was blocks or where there were walls. Like now I can talk to this person and they are actually helping me move things in the right direction. So now, right, they're no longer fighting each other's personality type. Although she was the only one that was getting the coaching, getting the guidance, but because she was able to now navigate how she was reacting and responding to this other person, that other, like everything just flowed better. And the other person let down their guard or their walls and whatever they were bringing to the table. And this allowed for open communication. And when you have open communication, that's when things just get more efficient, right? Again, speed of trust, that they trusted each other instead of like fighting against each other. And this is what created that clarity. And they were on the same page, right? Vision means, like, when you're working with a team, vision just means being on the same page. Everybody saw the same vision. And this allowed both of them to start making decision with more ease, more clarity, and more confidence. So, how do you actually cultivate this level of confidence and clarity? Again, one of the steps is communication, understanding those things. But before we got to the communication, right, I could have told her like what to say all day, but without understanding both of their leadership styles, it was really hard to help her navigate those conversations. And I found this to be true. Once your confidence grows, is when you know your strengths and how to use them. And this is why I always start with tools like the DISC or like my own personality assessment tool to find your influential factor. Because without it, it just gets hard. It's kind of like trying to speak Japanese, but the other person speaks Spanish, and you're getting so frustrated in your communication. It's not that you guys aren't communicating, you guys aren't speaking the right language. See, you don't understand each other. But right, if you are a Spanish speaking person and then you learn Japanese and now you're speaking Japanese to Japanese, it makes sense, right? And I'm using Japanese and Spanish because those are the two languages I'm studying right now on Duolingo. So there's that. And then you have the another personality type. I've talked about the D, right? The make it happen maven. The I personality type in my language, in my personality assessment tool, I call her the charismatic creative. And this type of person leads best through inspiration, right? They have a lot of ideas, but they don't have the energy to execute. And what happens is they can tend to lose focus and, especially if they overcommit. But the clarity helps them, right? The clarity on the goals, the visions, and understanding their strengths and their weaknesses, having this level of clarity is what helps them to channel their energy properly. Because, right, if you're on a team with someone who has a lot of ideas, right, it's really good because if you're sitting around like, hey guys, what should we do next? I don't know. And nobody has any ideas, right? You need this person on your team. And then you have, let's say you have another person on your team that is really good with the details, which I call the detail oriented diva, right? That, detail oriented person can take the ideas and create a strategic plan that leverages those ideas. So, right, it's not, you don't want to fill up your team with people who are exactly like you because you're going to be missing out on, the strengths of the other personality types. Yes, do you have to deal with the other personality types' weaknesses? For sure. But again, understanding the strengths and the weaknesses is what's really going to move your team forward. And that understanding builds that trust, right? Franklin Covey, they are smart people. And the speed of trust, if you haven't read the book, go ahead and read that. It is phenomenal. But the key takeaway, if you don't have the time to read the book, is the speed, right? The speed of trust is what dictates the speed of growth in your organization. So the faster you can grow your trust is the faster that your team can start to grow. So step 2 in this process is aligning your energy with your vision. And in my programs, we talk about the energy frequencies. You know, shame, guilt, like they are on the low energy frequency scale. And this is not even something that is woo, it's very scientifical. Like the frequencies have been measured. And when we're vibrating, because it's actually a vibration, like they've measured like the hertz and whatever, when you're vibrating on these lower frequencies, it's really hard to have confidence and clarity when we're making decisions, right? Think about it. When you're making a decision from shame, guilt, or one of those lower frequencies, y- it's like, oh, I don't have the confidence. I don't have the trust. Like, and you start going around in circles, like nothing is effective or efficient at this point. But on the flip side, if you have clarity and you have confidence and you're operating from a high frequency like joy, love, gratitude, just being in gratitude and like, oh, like being thankful that I have another person on the team, although they might seem scatterbrained to me because I'm detail oriented, but yet I can be thankful that they have ideas that they're bringing to the table that we can therefore now execute, right? If you have gratitude, joy, and love for this person instead of like, ugh, dread and like, I don't want to go to these meetings because blah, 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 right? If you just change the energy or the frequency of how you're attending these meetings and how you're showing up, you will naturally attract better outcomes. And I'm using the word attract because it is a magnetic frequency. You attract better outcomes and make bolder decisions. And the efficiency goes up, the effectiveness of the decisions goes up. And so, right, when we're using this energy frequency to monitor those things, that's when the energy starts to go up and things just start clicking. Things start operating like clockwork and you're going to see it. You know, so how to really use this effectively? And what I do with my clients is I tell them to check in with their energy daily. And I help them use what I call the PEMS scale. It's basically an acronym to remember the four energy types, right? You have the physical, which is in your body, right? What are you feeling physically? Emotional, right? How am I feeling emotionally? Am I sad right now? Because the physical, right? If I'm sick, of course my energy is going to be lower, but I could be happy, but I'm sick physically in my body. Or the converse is true, right? I'm physically I'm okay. Like there's no energy drain there, but say my dog died and I'm feeling super low energy right now because I'm going through this emotional time, right? So that's your E is low. Your P might be high because you went to the gym. You have a lot of physical energy, but emotionally it's low. And mentally, are you just overwhelmed with projects and things? Mentally, you're checked out. So your M scale is low, but everything else could be high. And the last one is S, which is spiritual. So, like, say you're not in alignment with your values or things like that. Knowing where you are on each of those is going to just give you more data on where to look for your energy leaks. And also, the other question I ask is, are you operating from stress or are you in alignment? And again, are you physically under stress? Like, is your body under stress? You know, your energy just going to be naturally lower. But if you're in harmony and you're like, everything's going good, my life's good, and I got the golden ticket, and you're operating in alignment, like, and you look at your numbers, everything's going to be higher. So again, I have my clients track these four different energy levels. And that way we can pinpoint where it is. Because sometimes you're like, oh, I'm just low energy today. But why? Right. And also naming the emotion that you're feeling will also help pinpoint where you are on the energy frequency scale. Then we can help you elevate your energy frequency faster. Because when we're in higher energy frequencies, like I said before, clarity, confidence, action, all of that just gets exponentially better when we are operating from a higher frequency. And then step 3 is creating clear vision and goals, which sounds like duh. But when, like, what clarity means, clarity is the antidote to overwhelm, right? Having clarity is like, oh, I can see clearly. I'm not feeling overwhelmed right now. I'm not, right? I wear glasses. That's if I take my glasses off, I can't see clearly and I'm struggling to, walk down the hallway. I mean, in my own house, I know where the light switches are, I know where everything is. But when I'm unclear of the direction, not having my glasses on is just going to give me less clarity and I'm going to feel super stressed, super overwhelmed. But when you know where you're going, right, you can then lead decisively. So, an exercise that I give my clients as well is I have them write down their leadership goals. And this could be leadership in, right, if you're familiar with the wheel of life, there's 8 to 10 different areas that you can track your goals. And so I have them write down their goals for each quadrant for each quarter. So that's what you can do too, right? What are your leadership goals for this next quarter? Write those down. And what you want to do is align your goals, right, with your personality assessment, find your strengths. And once your goals align with your strengths, because the strengths are going to tell you what tactics and what strategies you should be deploying when you're trying to attack or achieve these goals. And it's also going to help you align with your energy type. Because again, right, frustration, overwhelm, like, confusion. If you're in that type of energy, like everything's going to go down. So, that is the first 3 steps. Step 4, building small wins on your leadership journey. And this, like, having those small wins and celebrating the small wins, one, it's going to increase your energy, right? Increase your vibe or however you want to call it. But it does. Celebrating your small wins increases your energy frequency because if you're in shame, guilt, but you're not celebrating anything, but when you are celebrating, right, you increase to like, okay, love, joy, peace. And, we also work on the fruits of the spirit inside of the programs. Because if we're not cultivating the fruits of the spirit, then like we're going down the negative fruits of the spirit. And once we're operating in, the higher frequencies, the fruits of the spirit, that's that confidence starts to build and starts to wake up inside you. And, you know, the reason why I started doing the personality assessment is I found out that certain people thought that they couldn't be confident because I'm not bold. And I don't always speak my mind. Like I'm more shy, I'm quiet, and I started to like well, it doesn't mean that you're not confident because let's say if you talk to an introverted person and like it's not that they don't have ideas, it's just that the person facilitating, getting those ideas is not using the tactics that would, have the introvert want to participate in giving those ideas to the group. So again, confidence is something that you are naturally born with. And I realized that having that assessment tool was the key to unlocking people's confidence. It's like, oh, I don't have to do it that way. No, you don't have to. Right? As a charismatic creative, like, oh, I need to be a social butterfly in order to be accepted and have my ideas be made known. It's like, no, You can be a more subtle person in the room and still have your, ideas be made known as well. And so understanding your personality type, again, this is where I start every client out with, because it starts with those small decisions, right? It starts with, okay, oh, this is my strength. I can step into this. I don't have to be like that person over there. And that's what happened to me when I was going through my own leadership journey. I was like, oh, in order to be, accepted in this environment, I have to show up in this way. Because I got, one of my assessments back, and they're like, oh, you need to be more assertive if you want to be, you know, be a leader in this organization. I was like, ugh, like being assertive as as a direct report didn't feel comfortable to me because it was a cultural thing for me. And I was like, well, I'm trying to respect my leaders by not voicing my opinion. But once I realized that this was something that they wanted me to be more assertive. I was like, okay, then it gave me the green light. And then I was able to be, the high D that I am, instead of just always resorting to being the I, like the fun person in the room, and like, because being the I in the room made me look flaky. Like, oh, she's not assertive and she's always bubbly and always laughing and having fun. How can we take her as a leader seriously? But even those people who have the bubbly personalities and are not as bold and decisive and like direct as some of the other leaders, it doesn't mean that they don't have the potential to lead. It just means they lead in a different way. Right. And so once you start to understand that, you have a small win. You spoke up and you said your ideas at the meeting, like, small win, celebrate. Because every time you celebrate, your energy frequency rises, and then you're just building upon that. And the more your energy frequency rises, the more confidence you have. And that's, like when you think about someone who has a lot of confidence, whether it's body confidence, like say they're not a perfect 10 when it comes to, the way that their body looks, but yet they have this high level of confidence. And they're like, I don't even know. Right, if we're being super critical, like, I don't even know why that person feels confident about their body because, they're overweight, like, they don't look good, blah, blah, blah. How can they come across as, like, being so confident? I don't get it, right? But it's because they have a high energy frequency, as opposed to someone who is negative, like, "Oh, well, in order for me to, love my body, it has to be perfect. And unless I have, six pack of abs, then I'm not perfect." So then, like, if you just you can hear the negativity in that second person, of course. They're like, how is that person like exuding such confidence when technically on paper, I have a better body than that person? It's because of that, right? That other person has a higher frequency than the negative frequency that the perfect body person has. So, making sure that you have a high energy frequency starts with stacking and building that confidence. And one of my clients, how she was able to gain confidence in that, in areas that she wasn't strong in. So she was very good. She's highly skilled. But when it came to delegating, it was hard for her because she was so highly skilled. And one of the things that we had to work on was her delegation, because by doing all the things in her business, it was really bogging her down. Because we came on the call and she was like, I'm so tired. I'm so exhausted. And she's like, hashtag doing all the things. And I said, why don't you outsource it to the assistant? Because in one of my packages, you know, the higher level packages, I have an assistant that comes on, like I onboard, my assistant or one of the people that I work with, and I have vetted and I have them work on your account. So this was the package that she got. So it was my assistant that I was, loaning out to her to help her with some of the administrative tasks that she was holding on to. And I was like, just, um, like she was working on some admin stuff, and she's like, "Oh, okay, okay, okay. I'll get to that." And I was like, "Just give it to, give it to the assistant." And she was like, and I guess the way that I had said it, because it was all via text message, because we had a group chat going on. She was like, "Oh, the way you just handled me. Oh my gosh." I mean, she loved it, but it shocked her at the same time. But this kind of growth over time is what builds that momentum. You have to learn how to delegate eventually, or again, that's part of leadership, right? And the more you're able to delegate, the more trust you're able to build. And this is what builds momentum in your career and your business. And again, all of these things that we talked about today have a direct impact on your leadership. Because when you're leading from confidence, when you're leading from clarity, it changes how your team, your clients, or even your family, like you're a leader of your family if you're a mother, right, or a father, it changes how your constituents respond to you, right? If they see you as an intentional, bold, and inspiring leader, they will treat you as such. And once you get into that leadership phase, that bold leadership, and again, bold leadership doesn't mean like I am a bold personality. It's showing up in your strengths is what makes you have bold leadership, right? It's not just about what you're doing today, the day in and day out. It's about that ripple effect that you're creating for the future. So clarity and confidence is what ensures that your legacy is one of empowerment and impact. Because I don't know about you, right? We're talking about the Leadership Breakdown podcast. If you're not a leader who wants to empower others and to create impact, does that make you a leader or does that make you a manager? We're going to be talking about leading versus managing on a future episode. So stay tuned for that. But again, if you're listening to this episode and you're feeling stuck, or you feel like you've been a reactive leader, or you just feel like I've been a manager, right? A lot of times reactive leadership comes from that manager mindset versus that leader mindset. And you're unsure about like, okay, you're seeing these things, right? Like, I need to change these things. And how do I do that? And you're unsure about what your next step in leadership should be. I'm going to say it's time for you to focus on confidence and clarity, the steps that we outlined on today's podcast, because this is where bold leadership starts. And this is exactly what I do with my clients in the Own Your Audacity program. In just 12 weeks, we align your strengths, we elevate your weaknesses, align your energy, and really help you lead with boldness and intention. That's right. Your strengths and your actions, confidence, clarity, all of these things is what we work with inside of that program. So if that is what you want and you're ready to step into your full potential, let's talk. I have, the link in the show notes to book a call. And why I have a call for these programs is because one, spots are limited. It's a high touch program. It's a one-on-one program. So I don't have a lot of spots available. I don't know if you're listening to this podcast, whatever time you're listening to it. Right now, I have a couple of spots available. If you get to that, to that link and there's no spots available, then, reach out. We can do something. But again, book a call if you feel the urge to increase your level of leadership. And just let's explore if this is the right next step for you. So again, thank you for tuning in to this week's episode. I really hope it's giving you insight and inspiration to lead with confidence and clarity. And again, if this episode resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. And find me on social media, share your biggest takeaway. You can find me on Instagram at kylie.ota. You can find me on Facebook, Kylie Kumalai Ota. Also, Kylie Kumaiota on LinkedIn. And, everything's in the show notes. Click on the links to my social media profiles, send me a DM and let's chat. Because, this podcast is not just about me. I want to bring these leadership concepts to you, to the world, to anyone that wants to grow into their next level of leadership. So again, all the things we talked about are in today's show notes, and even the resources to take your next steps are also in the show notes. So let's do it, guys. Let's make bold leadership your reality. And thank you again for listening to the Leadership Breakdown podcast. I'm your host, Kylie Ota, and I want to see you guys again next time. Okay, bye. Thanks for listening to the Leadership Breakdown podcast. If you're ready to break free from the overwhelm and finally create the impact you've been working so hard for, I want you to grab the Leadership Legacy Playbook. This guide gives you the exact strategies to lead with purpose and leave your mark on the world. Don't keep putting off the legacy that you want to build. Grab the link in the show notes and start building your legacy today.